This week we have Parshas Balak, and Parshas Balak ends, a very dramatic ending. Yar Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron Kohen, v'yochel mitoch Eidah v'yikach Romach v'yado. He took a spear in his hand. Chazal say it's also a remez, a hint to the Ramach Yevarim. It's 240 limbs. V'yavo Achiv Yisrael. It's a kuba. V'yidkar Shneim. He speared both of them. Ish Yisrael v'es Isha es El Kawasa. V'tatzra I gave him al b'nei Israel. So we all know the famous story with Pinchas. Got up and he speared these two individuals who were being Michal Shem Shemayim Barabim, at least one of them, and killed them. And because of that, he got the Brisi Shalom. So, Maisa, Pinchas is a Rebbe, all Kanayim. Right? Kanayim is very popular. In Israel, they don't have baseball or football, well, they do have soccer, right? But they're missing a certain amount of action from sports, especially in the greater community. So Kanayis has become the sport, and everybody has their Kanayis. Some people is this, some people that. Elections is a big one, but we have an important election. We have an important limud here on Kanayis. Right? Number one, that the time is the right thing to do, and it's considered Kiddush Shem Shemayim. But number two, Lamaisa, before Pinchas went to kill Chazbi and Zimri, he first asked him, he asked Moshe Rabbeinu, what are we supposed to do here? So he said, "Can I pogamba?" Which really means like you have to decide for yourself. And only then did he do what he did. It was very precise, calculated kanais. Right? And Lamaisa, if a person does that, it's a davar gadol ma'od. I want to share with you. If you look around the Ramakomos on the back page, there's some Chashav Maramokim here. See a Chutzchas, some Sofer. There's a Gemara here in Brachas. I happen to be on learning Brachas now. And there's an important shtickle here on Daf Chaf Amud Aleph. Why is it that Doros Rishonim, if you look here at the Gemara, Doros Rishonim, they had miracles. We don't have miracles. So the Gemara says, it's because they had more Torah, right? Well, we have a lot of Torah. It's talking about this time of the Gemara, right? When Rabbi Yehuda got to Uksin, he had 13 mahalchim in this very delicate matter in Uksin. So it can't be because of Torah. That doesn't work. 13 Masiftas, 13 Shivas were working on it, right? And Rabbi Yehuda, right? Rabbi Yehuda would take his shoe off and it would rain, and we scream our lungs out, and our tefillahs are not answered. So what? And in Yiddish, what do they say? What's Tutzach Dorn? What's going on here? So the Gemara answers the question. The Gemara says it depends on Mesiras Nefesh. And what's the Mesiras Nefesh? Right? It brings a story with Rav Ada bar Ava. So what happened? It's a famous story. Rav Ada bar Ava saw a woman wearing a karbalasa. You know what a karbalasa is? Karbalasa? Everyone can have their own idea what it is. But there's three mahalchim in the Rishonim. One mahalchim was this red. It was a red coat. Like the British, they wore these red coats. It was a red coat. And red is not tznius. So
because the commoner is
right. So that was it. It wasn't like tight fitting. It wasn't, above the knees or something. It was just red. That was it. The second mahalach really, that it was a beged chashiv. It was like a very chashiv beged. And it's not dark asnias to wear too chashiv beged. It attracts attention to yourself. A woman wears like a very important looking dress, in the shuk. The shuk is the place. You went to the shuk, they're selling agbaniot, avatiach, alasakin, people are running around. This woman dressed like she's going to someone told me last night, yesterday on Shabbos, it cost her 10,000 shekels to rent a Hasten dress for one night. So you can imagine a woman going to the shuk with a 10,000 shekel clothing on. Everyone's going to look around. That's the second shot. And the third shot is that it was purely, it was kloyim. And that's Sugi over there is talking about kloyim. Right? So that was the problem. Anyway, in any event, it was something that she shouldn't have been wearing, either because it was red, either it was too chashiv, or because it was kloyim. And Prophet Taylor ripped it off. I think she was wearing clothes underneath. I think so. Maybe she wasn't. Because the Gemara there says, when it comes to these things, you're not supposed to. I guess she's wearing clothes, but we don't have to spend on that. What I want to show you is a Rashi, which is a Pliyat Summa. When I saw this Rashi, it knocked my socks off. So, because what's the end of the story? So he was fined for this act. He found out she was a goy. She wasn't Jewish. She was not a Jew. And he was fined 400 Jews. So after the incident, he asked her, "What's your name?" Right? And she said, "Masan, Mem Tes Vav Nun." So he said, "Amarlo, Masan, Masan, Arba Me'ezuz Shavi. Masan, Masan, Arba Me'ezuz Shavi." So, okay. It sounds like it's a play on words or something. Masan. Rashi says like this. Look at Rashi. Right? Karbalasa, he says, Levui Chashav, he goes with that Mahalach. Masan, Masan, Loshan Masan, 200. Right? Arba Meos, Shtei Pamim, Shtei Meos. Masan, Masan. Gaxi. So why was it 2 times? You know what? Her name was Masan, so it should be 200. What's 400? 2 times Masan. Klomar, Hashem Gorimli. Because this woman's name was Masan, so if he had to pay 400 dues. I mean, right. Because her name was Masan, he has to pay her 400 dues. Like that's why I'm off the charts. Pella. Kolomar, Hashem Gorli, Lashon Acher, Masan, Masan, Lashon Hamtana. Imam Tanti, Haisim Shtaka Arbamis. So if I would have waited, I would have saved myself 400 dues. Now, by the way, in Chad Gadya, so a goat was 2 zoos, right? Chad Gadya is a goat, right? So that means it was the value of 200 baby goats, right? Sounds like a lot of money. If you buy a container of goat's milk today, it's 15 shekels. How much a goat costs? And then live on for a year. But how about zoos, though? What about zoos? It's army at zoos, right?
What did you talk?
It was a small fortune, unfortunately, especially in those days. Okay.
No time, bro. Doesn't take much.
Whoever has Matayim zoos?
Doesn't take much.
Oh, because poor.
He's not poor anymore.
Oh, he's not poor anymore. Okay, so he's doubling up. However, it's a large amount of money. So how can we understand this? That because her name was Masan, he had to pay 400 dues. And Rashi even is low. If I would have been more Masan, right, I would have saved myself 400 dues. The Gemara is coming to praise him. He's doing something right. Ripping off this dress was an act of courage. And I saw the Ben Yadis, I was like, he knew maybe she wasn't Jewish, but he did it anyway. Because he said, this is the right thing to do. Jewish women shouldn't be not walking around with such clothing. But again, in today's modern day society, this is, a little bit extreme. And I'm sure Me Too, these people, they were like, I hope they don't get hold of the shir. They're going to probably sue me or something. But I'm just reading the Gemara, right? So I'm not taking any credit. In any event, it needs beer for sure. So I was like, really, I was walking home from the coastal Friday night and I was trying to think about this Rashi. Like, what does he mean? Shame Garm. I had a whole mahalach, like Mamish and La Yehudim. But afterwards, my son and I were learning at Shabbos, and we saw that one of the Svarim quotes the Chuvas Chasim Sofer. And this is like such a gavad. Like you see the Galas the Chasim Sofer. The Chasim Sofer wrote about himself. In every generation, there's one person who's appointed in a Shemayim to paskin the Shiloh of that generation. It was me. He writes about himself. And he wasn't saying that out of Gaiva. Who was it? They would send the Chasim Sofer Shilohs, and people would like, just read me the Psak. I don't want to hear the arguments, because this is term in a Shemayim. You see the way the Chasim Sofer learned the Basugi. He's talking about a Shiloh here, about a get, which was written with an extra letter. Right? They accidentally, they missed a letter. Instead of Manoi, Memnud, Aleph Yud, they wrote Mana without a Yud. So now look where he says. About 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines down. This is in Evan Ezra Chelik Beisim in Yotes. He says like this. Yamar no ala Rava Masada B'Davra. God look at that. Roilios Masan. You should be very, very methodical, right? We know. Right at the beginning of Perkis of it says Havi Masuna Badid. V'amar Chazal Dalid Me'azuz Shavye. So Anasam Lafinis Daiti. So now what's pshat in this? Ki Masan Lashon Hamtana. The Pasha pshat of Masan is Hamtana. Lamtin, right? Velolios Nechpaz B'Nimayr. Masan with an aleph is Masayim. The Hefresh Mabata, by pronunciation, Bein Masan Lamasan, he rocked on Shachis of Aras aleph. Right? Masan or by the Svardim. Anyone who's are you pronounce the aleph? Mechaber says if you don't differentiate between your aleph and your ayin, then you're possibly a shatz. Okay, but I think even though it's silent, there must be some difference in pronunciation between mas with the aleph without that aleph. Seems so. Chasim Sofer seems to be saying. right? In any event, so the difference is very, very small, just that aleph, right? Rakam shochet savaras aleph. V'shenechbaz v'nimayer ve'ena medakdek. A person who goes quickly and is not careful, right, to pronounce this properly, right? So it'll be masan and masan. Average bein masan, beis pamim, l'masan masan beis pamim is beis meos, right? Is going to be 200, 400 altogether. So what?
Father and the man
Right.
supposed to say it long if there's an aleph. You're
Ah,
gonna make that sound that I go to instead of that one.
right. So Yocher and Kal, Rabbi Kal, who he wrote up a test today for Dalmina, and he's an Israeli shtickle, I can say that. So Lamaisa, it's a slightly longer pronunciation of the Pasach.
Wait a little long.
Right.
Or 200.
Right.
You don't wait.
If you stretch it, it's 200. If you don't stretch it, it's patience. Okay. So that's the slight difference. So since the Chasim Sofer, you see how important it is to be muscle and not muscle, right? It's messiness. And then the Chasim Sofer goes on to say, when I write a get, I spell it out, I spell the words, because one letter wrong in a get, it could mean it's puzzle, because the shame was a get or ma'akiv. Okay. So very interesting shtickler of Chasim Sofer. L'maisa, if you what he's saying, though, we can understand Rashi, can mean chomer. What's the pshat shame gura? Shem Gora means that Rav Ada Bar Ava is being presented here with an soy. He can either do this quickly or slowly. Right now, it's the right thing to do. So much so is the right thing to do. He's praised that this is the reason why earlier generations had miracles. We have miracles because he was a kanai. Right? But even when a person is being a kanai, yeah, so you're still not supposed to be nechtav in this way. You're supposed to do it methodically, right? And so Rav Ada Bar Ava is giving himself musr, right? Masan and masan, right? The difference between the two is 400 Jews. If I had done the right thing, but I had done it a little more carefully, then I would have saved myself 400 Jews. And that's Rashi means shame Gorim, right? This woman, Mina Shamayim, she was given this name Masan because one day she would meet up with her Ava with a parbalasa, and this action would happen. And Lamaisa, it was a remez that he was being tested here. He was being tested on his canoias, but in the test, there was a slight side test, as it were, to do it quickly or slowly, right? He did the right thing, but there was a tiny, tiny drop of element here for an asoyed. Should he be masan or mas? Right? And that's why he had to pay 400 Jews. And that's the musar that Rav Ada Bar Ava is giving himself, criticizing himself. And that's what it means, shame gora, right? In other words, this non-Jew was being given this name Masan as a future test for Ada Bar Ava. Is he going to be Masan or Masan with an Aleph or Masan without an Aleph? And the difference is going to be 400 Jews. I flew a fellow from the Chasim Sofer, like pshat, such a beautiful pshat. And it doesn't say in Rashi, but I put into Rashi. And that's Lafini Saiti, what Rashi is saying. But Hayotzimi Kola now, what we can take out of this is like two major things. Right? First of all, Kanois, for sure. When a person's going to be a kanai, you want to do something like, I'll give you an example, burning garbage pails, destroying traffic lights. Somebody came to a Sternbuck's house, a group of 30 people, and they were throwing dirty diapers, rotten fruit and vegetables, and they took all, I think, 50 of his farm, they put it through a paper shredder, and they put it in a box, they sent it FedEx to his house and made sure he got the box, right? To know that, like, his books are worthless. And it was because he had a certain kula about, I won't get into issues because I don't want to get into trouble. Okay. He had a certain kula, which is based, he had 10 rayas for that kula. I went to the tshuva very carefully. Okay. But Lamaisa, a friend of mine, went and asked these people, don't you have anything better to do? And they said, no. Right? No, they're bored. So anyway, but look, there's Kanayas, right? They weren't masan, these people. Anyway, the next day I saw Rav Sternbuck and I asked him, he was smiling from ear to ear. I said, why is Rav Zvabi? He said, I shouldn't be happy. They go my prayers, I get all their mitzvahs. I wish they would come every day. Right. Okay. So Rav Sternbuch always says, because there's Shem Shemayim, it'll never end. But the point is, okay, maybe they had good intentions, yeah? I mean, they're just idiots, they're completely wrong, and everything they're saying is just stupid. But, okay, nobody's perfect. So, but at least a little messinas to realize you're dealing with somebody who is like way, way above the entire door. I asked him a shayla on Shabbos, like working on it for like 30 hours, and he had the answer like on his fingertips, and he's on a breathing machine, etc. Okay. But obviously these people know better but that's the Indian of must and must. Two things. Number one, a general klal, especially for people learning halacha and who take tests, which are complicated. I went over two of the tests and I was like so impressed. It was a Rami Horowitz and also Rafal Yontif. Like unbelievable, both got 100. It was like almost every single point that I was looking for, they found it. Kolakabor, right? You can only get that from Mus and Mus. And Lamaisa, right at the beginning of Pirkei Avos, it says Habi Masunim Badin. So there's a beautiful Chassid Yavitz in general, like he's the Moradai Shmaitz of Pirkei Avos. Rabbeinu Yonah, Chassid Yavitz, these Rishonim, you really have to learn them. So he says, like, any shiloh which comes in front of you, don't say, well, I had the shiloh 20 times before. David Morgenstern taught me that. He said, like, whenever you get a shiloh, ask some questions, and especially if it seems like really pashas. Somebody asked me a shiloh on Friday. I had to do with Choshen Mishpat. Yeah. And I said, that sounds like a very complicated shiloh. So he gave me the number of the person who was involved with. I called her up, like, completely different story to what the other side is saying, And okay, so you have to hear her side. Here's the truth is, it was a poil who had done certain work. This woman had canceled the work in the middle, right? She said, I canceled the middle. I shouldn't have to pay for it. He said, when he told me the story, he said, but he was already in the middle of the job and it was a point where he couldn't stop anymore. Right? So anyway, but you have Havi Masuna Badin means before you say any psak, yeah, and look, the more chomer a psak, especially here we're dealing with Gittin, Mater Eshli Shoshok, one letter could be like a certain Bacher I was learning with on Shabbos. He wrote a certain tshuva in Hilda's Gittin. He writes back to me, Rachman al this tshuva is machmer volamos, you're destroying this, long. And okay, I think I'm right. I spoke to Gdon, they disagree with him, but you have to know that that's true. One letter and a get could be Mater Eshli Shoshok. So really, if there's any place which needs Messinas, it's in Hills Gittin. But in any shayla that comes to your hands, now it could be Erev Shabbos, Shatzat Chak, 20 minutes before Shkia, candle lighting, so it's hard, but don't ever rush. Yeah, the Evan Ezra has a beautiful line. He says, "Pri mihiras charata." The fruit of going fast is regret. Yeah, and I always say I quote Shakespeare. I'm sorry, in the same sentence I quote Shakespeare and Evan Ezra, but the Shakespeare had an amazing line. He says, "Hasten carefully, go fast slowly," and that's the mahalach of the kolel. We try to go fast, but do it slowly. Do it slowly. Okay. The people who think we're going too slow will say you're going too fast. The people who think we're going too fast, it's slow. So no one's going to agree with it. Yeah, okay. You wouldn't say the people who think we're going fast think we're going slow. Everyone's going to, and whatever. We had 3 colon break off with that. But anyway, whatever it is, the point is like this. And everyone has their own definition of what's fast and what's slow. Rabbi Kiva Eger said, by the way, he said you have to learn 100 blot in 1 hour and 1 blot in 100 hours. Remember that, right? And he finished Shas every month, though, right? His Sefer Gilyon HaShas was not such a big deal. He has Marmakonos because he finished Shas every night before he went to sleep. He did 100 blot. Rav Kalish, he'll be coming here soon. He did 7 blot a day. So it's very nice. But Rav Kiva Eger would learn 100 blot. That was like how he wound down his day before going to sleep. So, and he did an hour, I assume, because that was what he said. So, look, you have to know how to go fast. When it comes to psak, you have to know having masunim b'din. You have to be very, very careful. Somebody, I won't tell the exact shot. One of the Israelis asked me a question 2 days ago, right? And I was very careful about it. I said X, Y, Z. And I thought about it. I thought about it for like 5 seconds. So this is what we have to do, right? And that was enough. Sometimes you have to think 5 minutes. Sometimes you need 10 minutes, And sometimes you should say, I'll call back tomorrow. You have to know if you have the time. So there's I have a list of 11 Gedoli Achronim, right? It's in the Kansa Shavim on your Adea. They all say it's also to pass in a Shaila without first looking in Svar. Whoever does so is over on the Avera Chamura of Mora Halach B'fnei Rab. Yeah? So my Shaila was, but nobody does that. Almost nobody does that. So what's Tutzuk doing? The answer is because there are not too many Shailas. A Shaila is Hachroa, Psak, Din. Anything, they write, everything which is Mefurish in Svarim, it's not called, it's not B'Torah's Hachroa. They're talking about Hachroa. But definitely, if a person asks you a Shaila in Hachroa, you have to take time on that, and very methodically, and carefully and wade through. And that's true in Dalit Chelkei Shulchan Aruch, but certainly in the fifth chelik of Shulchan Aruch. Somebody asked me 3 weeks ago, Shaila, in the fifth chelik of Shulchan Aruch, and my immediate reaction was A, and then after 2 days I said no, it's B. I made a mistake. Because I thought through it again. Yisrael Belsky told me that. He said anything which is important needs Linus Lila. Linus Lila. He said any letter. Now I'm going to tell you a chiddush. Once upon a time, there was something called a letter. You wrote something, and then you put an envelope, and you went to the post office, and it was stamped, and people used to deliver it to your house. Today, like this email, I did it a year ago, and it cost me 100 shekels, because they said, well, if every shekel is a chance he's going to get there. If you pay 40 shekels, it's 40% chance it will arrive. If you pay 80 shekels, so I said, I need 100%, so it's 100 shekels. It wasn't exactly, but that's more or less. So Amal says Rebelsky, when you wrote a letter, if it was really important, you should write it. Next day, read it again, and you'll rewrite it, almost for sure, because you see things differently the next day. An email is very dangerous, and I've written emails when I said Rebelsky saved me many times, because especially if you get a very passionate email, the Tevis writes something very, somebody sent me a letter. Rabbi Travis, it's obvious from the last year you gave that you were dropped on your head as a child. Now, it's true. When I was 3, my brother, and he was 2, he banged me over the head with a hammer. Okay, I had to go to the hospital. Look, I got a good start. It's true, but I don't think that reflects the content of the shir, because I was just quoting Rav Sternbach, who said that evolution is complete rubbish. It's just and this person was offended by it. Okay, so look, you can tell me, look, Rabbi Travis, I think you're missing the following sources. What about dealing with this, that? But to tell you I was dropped on your head, it doesn't add too much to my, education. And okay. So the point is, I was very tempted to write back to him. And it happened to me once, a guy wrote to me a very, very nasty letter, right? What was this? Okay, I won't say what it was, but it wind out he was one of the rich Jews in America. And afterwards, I answered him, "Thank you for taking the time to write to me. I was working on this meeting at the time. People don't often write to me, take the time, and he sat down, and I'm going to go to the Rav again and ask him." And I did. It was the time Goldberg. He said the same thing. I said the Rav said the same thing, and he invited you to come when you come to Eretz Yisrael. Please, he wants to meet you, right? And that's what he did. Gave me a large check afterwards. But the point is, that's how Masunim B'din, right? And especially when emotions are involved, be very, very careful, because emotions can throw a person off very, very big time. Okay, so just to be mistakib here, we start with Parshas Pinchas. Kanoias is an important midah. The Gemara says in Brachos, that is why they had miracles, we don't have miracles. But even when you're acting with Kanayas, right? Mustn't. Remember of Adabar Ava, he wound up paying 400 extra Jews, even though he did the right thing. But if he'd done it slightly differently, with a little more sinus, he could have saved himself the 400 Jews. Probably it would have been the same level, right? He was ready to do it. That would have been enough. And he could have saved himself 400 Jews. Hashem should help us all, especially those people involved with the Tzibor, Psak Halacha, Shilas, whether it be Dal Chalak Shulchan, Tzvit Chalak Shulchan, Eitzes, having the Sunnah B'din, remember that. And the Chassid Gavin says, especially in Golas, there's we don't say, in Chutz La'aretz, they don't say Pitav Kataris, and Ashkenazim at least don't do Birgas Kohanim. Why not? Because everything is so rushed, I'm in Shul in Chutz La'aretz sometimes, not by the Sfardim, by the way. I'm Sephardi in Chutz La'aretz. I'm really Bukhari, because they daven an hour and 15 minutes, half an hour for kabbanos. It's too slow for me. I have to bring a sefer, right? Palaisa, that's the way you're supposed to daven. I went to the certain minyanim in Chutz La'aretz. It's like 7, 8, 9 minutes for kabbanos. Okay, that's good. 7 minutes for Pesukei Zimra. 5 minutes for Birkas Kriya Shema and Shema, and 3 minutes for Shemon Esrei. It's like going, and they say something Al Pi Chasidus, you have to go fast because the Yitzhak, I don't know. But by the time I'm getting to Yishtabach, they finish the davening. So what I have to do is I have to get there half an hour early, start davening, and get up to Ava Rabbah by the time they, start. And then I can make it through Shema, and Shemon Esrei almost start at the same time. Okay, look, when you're going so fast, life is fast paced. So Pita Makatoris, the Chachamim say that, one word off is like could be a Shaila of Chayat Bisa, and Birkas Kohanim, it has to be said Ba'ava and Basimcha. When you're rushing, my Chavrusa showed me a rush. It says rush. In the Chuslas, they're so rushing, right? They can't have Simcha. You can really only enjoy life, if you hasten carefully, go slowly, And I always, Prima Gun says that you lose 1/500th of your eyesight by running. Right? It's like a right? And you get it back by Kiddush of Sidra. Kiddush of whatever. Baisa, if you put your eyes on it, your sitters on your eyes, by reason. I was having trouble with my eyes, and I started doing that. It's a pella. Mamish pella, right? But the point is like this: what I understand, losing 1/500th of your eyesight, what does that mean? It means that when you run really fast, you miss what's going on around you, right? You don't have the focus and concentration. It could be literal also, but you see, people usually don't go blind while running around. But the point is that it's really, especially a person's involved with horoah, yeah? And I was zoiker to be by like anashim gedolim me'od. And they got shilas, pikuach nefesh mamish on Shabbos. And they were complete slilas adas, yeah? Like Rav Sternbach. Rav Sternbach is totally shouldered over everything. And he's 97, he should be gesund. He's on a breathing machine. And when I speak to him, he's masunim bedin, yeah? He's in complete control. I was speaking to him a number of years ago. There was a air raid siren that went off, and like everybody's panicking. He was just sitting, saying Tehillim, yeah. And the only reaction he had was, people should be saying Tehillim now, yeah. Right? Like Brisker Rav told me, every missile has an address. That's having, in general, masunim. But when it comes to din and kanayas, you have to be really masunim. Anyway, Hashem should give us bracha, tzlach, and siyat, shmaya, to hasten carefully. Sooner than again, look, if it's a real tachuf shaila, you give me a week. I have to write tshuva. Give me a month, And meanwhile, these people are in pain. You have to know how to go fast, slow, right? But you should never run. Yeah, if you rush, pre-mehiras charata. Yeah, pre-mehiras charata. Think it over. If you have the opportunity to take a night on it, I'm telling you, it's the most important thing I ever heard from Ravelsi. There are many important things, right? But that is like so chashuv. Before anything major, a letter, which could affect your relationship with him, or a major hurrah, sit on it for a day, and if you can. Okay. Hashem should give us the Shmaya, Amen, Kate.